Parents often ask their children, "What did you do at school today?" Nothing? How much does it matter for pupils and staff to enjoy school? In a recent report, Lord Layard claims that 1 in 3 families are affected by depression and that this costs the economy billions of pounds. The failure of well-being in the population at large is critical. Can the foundations of happiness be laid in schools? This programme looks at a range of strategies for developing well-being. We visit a primary school in Norfolk which has turned around behaviour and performance by adopting nurture principles.
We get to talk about lots of things at Toast Time, don't we? That's always fun, isn't it?
In Essex, we see how self-assessment tools are helping pupils to analyse their capabilities and share responsibility for improvement.
This is the first brain profile I got. You get an analysis of the parts of your brain. L2, preserver and organiser, and R2, socialiser and empathiser.
We look at new initiatives in the States and in the UK that deal directly with issues of personal fulfilment.
I came to the realization that I was feeling things that a lot of people had said people my age didn't feel.
And we go to Liverpool, where confidence and self-esteem are being developed through performance and humour.
Yeah, look, I'm watching, but I can't see nothing.
Our first example is of leadership throughout the school, organising explicit opportunities for convivial social experiences and creative teamwork. These opportunities need just as much planning, know-how and commitment as any subject in the national curriculum. It is the creation of a space for children to take responsibility and find their fulfilment which marks out this nurture school approach. 5 years ago, St Andrew's Primary in North Pickenham was a problem school. Although located in a small village in rural Norfolk, St Andrew's pupils exhibited all the symptoms of urban deprivation. They were disruptive and had low esteem and low expectations. Newly appointed head teacher, Jenny Barnacle, realised that she had to address the problems at a fundamental level.
Really, I just wanted to give them the opportunity to have all the things that my children had, exciting learning, hands-on experiences, creativity, all the things that go into that. But in that first year, I was dealing with a lot more issues than that. And behaviour was a big key issue.
Jenny's approach was based on the principles of nurture groups, which were originally designed as an intervention strategy. A basic nurture tenet is that education can only take place in the context of positive human relationships. Jenny decided to take the bold step of applying nurture principles across her whole school.
I've given you a few on there.
My biggest change first was to change the environment and actually changing the whole feeling about this place where they came to school so that it actually felt like a nice place to come to.
Nurture is essentially about creating an atmosphere of mutual respect and positive values. One of the most visible examples of that occurs at 10:30 every day, when lessons stop and all the classes sit down to a late breakfast.
What we did was to actually make sure that each class sat down and had, we call it toast time, but sat down within their class and actually went through the social skills of sitting at a table, listening, talking to each other, please, thank you, eye contact, all the things that are key issues in building up relationships.
A lot of children come to school perhaps not having had breakfast or not having, perhaps not having had much attention at home. So it's providing those needs that the children have before you can even begin to start teaching them.
We get to talk about lots of things at Toast Time, don't we?
And Belgium and the slide.
Talking about all your parties and everything, that's always fun, isn't it?
Try to sort of make it like a family-orientated meal time almost. A lot of the children don't have the chance to converse over the table.
So everybody went to Harley's party, did they?
Yeah,
And you? Did you all go? You've been to the bee? Goodness me, you are. Wow.
We do keep a Toast Time diary as well, so if something does come up, and that could be something great to share, or it could be something that you've found out about a child, because you never know what's going to come up.
There may be all sorts of hidden messages in what they're saying, so it's listening quite carefully to what they're saying and trying to assess what their needs are and what their priorities are. Whether they're, that day they are upset because something's happened at home, or they may be tired. So it's reading the signs. Lots of people who do come into the school say, what a lovely atmosphere it is, what a friendly school. Now, if you'd have come into the school 5 years ago, you would not have been saying that.
Sophie, would you like some water?
Much of the teaching at St Andrews is centred on themes rather than individual subjects, with lots of emphasis on a hands-on approach. Teachers and children are given the freedom to develop to the extent of their imaginations.
We're going to have a go at using some of the techniques that the Anglo-Saxons would have used to make our own Anglo-Saxon hut.
The whole thing is making learning fun. So they'll learn far more about actually building an Anglo-Saxon house by actually doing it than reading in a book. I suppose in a way that's not necessarily a nurture thing. In fact, most people learn, even adults learn by doing far more than by actually sitting listening to somebody talking.
Be prepared to get messy today. All right, that's my advice.
I believe that having structure is really important, but you've got to have that confidence to think out of the box. I have a problem with teaching to the SATs. It makes you one-dimensional and it doesn't make children a whole rounded person.
And parents have noticed the beneficial effects of the nurture scheme as well.
At the moment they're doing this Anglo-Saxon house. Children look like they just used him to plaster the walls. It was sort of like just throw him into the bath because it was easier than trying to peel it all off. But that's kids, they get dirty, but he really enjoyed it because it was hands-on. He's learnt about it and now he's putting the practical with the theory.
Get more of the water. Little at a time. Right, see how that goes. Oh, look at the bottom.
Johnny never had one day off last year, and even on the days he didn't feel very well, he still wanted to come. Ellen the other morning, don't feel very well. I said, well, don't go then. 10 minutes later, I'm coming.
Some people, I think, thought we were being a bit strange, but it's not just about being fluffy and warm and cuddly. It has actually got a very firm structure.
I think we've got some very independent thinkers here, and also children that think very laterally across everything that they do. They draw on every subject because it is so interlinked rather than seeing things so compartmentalised.
Well done.
I feel the principles of nurture groups are good teaching, making teaching fun, interesting, and looking at the needs of your individuals. And that should apply to every child in any size of school, really.
Right! Finish the bit that you're on. You can leave your troughs there. We will be out again tomorrow. Very well done. Have you had a good time? It's made a huge, huge impact. And it's fun.
So, a nurture school approach helps children understand each other. But what about making sense of themselves? In our next example, secondary age pupils are identifying their strengths and weaknesses, and with that self-knowledge taking control of finding a balanced whole. In this way, they share responsibility for their learning and may develop capability to retain a balanced attitude for the rest of their lives. At King Harold School in Waltham Abbey, on the outskirts of London, Year 10 students are undergoing a process known as brain mapping.
The students actually go through a profiling questionnaire which will show us characteristics and strengths and what we now tend to use as comfort areas and uncomfortable areas. What we're going to do here now is to go through your profile. We've logged in, got you set up. So what we're going to do now is answer each question, and each question is going to be based about how you learn, okay? Yeah. And how you...
The questionnaire and subsequent analysis is based on principles developed at a university in South Africa for applications in the business community. Its use in schools, however, is a novel development.
What we do is actually use the profiling as part of our ICT course. What we want you to do is on each question, as it says here, there will be 4 responses. Most preferred, second most preferred, third most preferred, and the 4th one it will then turn over to the next question. Okay? Now you've got about 30 questions to do, so as soon as you click on continue, you can get going. The questions are based around his learning styles and also how he is receptive to learning information, which is what we want to find out.
Brain mapping attempts to associate a student's thought processes with different functional areas of the brain. The ultimate purpose of the analysis is to find out which particular areas dominate. The idea being that self-knowledge is an important route to personal fulfillment.
So I just wanted to, I want to see what kind of person I am, because you know yourself, but you don't know yourself fully, do you?
You can't argue in many respects with the data because it's data that they've inputted. It's not something that's been enforced on them by us. It's not data that we said, oh, the data we know about you because you did blah, blah, blah is this. Therefore, we're expecting this from you. And that's the target we're going to set. For the first time, this is owned by them. And that's important.
This is the first brain profile I got. You get an analysis of the parts of your brain, L1, L2, R1 and R2. And you get a written analysis as well.
Our R1 are our creative people, if you like, in simple terms. Our R2s are our social people, so our empathetic, socialising people. Our L2s like order, they like things given them in bit by bit. And our L1s are our can see the whole project, but actually just give me the whole thing and I want to manage it. So they're our leaders.
It was really interesting because I've never seen how my brain works before, and it helps me a lot in lessons as well because I know which techniques I like to use best.
I'm more of a logical thinker, so I'm just seeing if my profile will tell me that I'm a logical thinker.
Yeah, when the results came back I was quite shocked because I knew what areas I was better in, but it was quite nice to see them on paper and think, well, I was right, I do work best in them ways, and it's quite reassuring. It was good.
We don't tend to say, well, this will help, this will make you a better mathematician, or this will make you a better da-da-da. What we're trying to do is actually say, well, what we want you to do is to try to develop all parts of your brain so that you're using all of them all the time. And the more you can, the better. The ones that are natural are easy. It's the ones that are not natural that are going to be more uncomfortable, we need much more work on.
I know what areas I'm good in and what areas I work best with, and also it's helped me because I can talk to the teacher about which ones have come out strongest and they can plan the lesson so that everyone gets the best out of it.
So much more positive to walk into school knowing that these are the areas I'm good at, these are the areas I'm bad at, and you can go straight to people with your problem saying, can you help me in this way? And I think it just makes you feel so much more comfortable knowing that you can be easier to work with.
We're beginning discussions about then how that might fit long term in our curriculum, because if they're happy in their learning, we'll benefit by getting better results.
As this practice develops, school teachers will begin to note the pupils' self-analysis and use it to plan the curriculum. At Strathaven School in the United States, the curriculum is being developed to affirm young people's lives and help them celebrate positive experiences. This recognises that being young does not prevent you from enjoying life, and that learning is also about the self. At Strathaven, experimental positive psychology courses have been on the agenda for the last 3 years.
I want you to write an individual to whom you need to express gratitude towards. Just take a couple minutes, think about it. I'm going to do it with you.
Today, teacher Kevin Haney is running a refresher session with students he first taught 3 years ago when they were in the 9th grade. He is developing optimism skills, encouraging students to respond to adversity in a positive way. He starts by exploring the theme of gratitude.
Anybody want to start us? You want to start us off since you guys are reading your own?
I chose my pop. I chose him because he's always been there for me, even though he and my mom got divorced. He's actually modeled his life around me. Before the divorce happened, we lived in Virginia. Then my mom and me, we moved up to here, Pennsylvania, and eventually he actually moved it to a house that's walking distance from the one I'm living in now. That's just really powerful and meaningful.
Kevin's English class is just one example of how positive psychology can be introduced into the curriculum. Watching the class is a team of academics who have devised the program. Psychologist Jane Gillam explains what it is all about.
Positive psychology as a field really emphasizes focusing on the positive end of life. So what it means to be thriving, to be doing well, to having good relationships. What we focus on in this program are 3 routes to happiness. One route is positive emotion, and so how to feel more positive emotion, how to savor life, enjoy things. One is happiness through using strengths, so understanding our strengths, using them more day to day, with the idea that if we recognize our strengths and use them in life, that's how we find a life that's most fulfilling, is we find our niche by finding the strengths that work for us. And then in the third part of the program, we focus on happiness in terms of meaning. So what is meaning or purpose? And that's another route to happiness, and we work a lot with the students to help them figure out what makes their own life meaningful and feel purposeful.
So you ask 10 adults, what is your purpose? And I'd be willing to bet that more than half of them could not give you an answer.
I think it's a program that all freshman students should take. Just because it really helps you feel good about yourself and feel like you can talk to other people, which I think is a skill that is desperately lacking in a lot of high school students.
I'm opening up with my family and friends more. I was very closed up with even my own family. I didn't really talk too much about my feelings and emotions and everything, but I am doing that more now, so.
Well, they reacted in many different ways to this course. It depended upon the lesson. If the lesson fit what they were feeling at the time, and what I mean by what they're feeling is that certain age level, they responded very well. They were incredibly receptive. If it was something a little bit more dry, something a little bit more content-driven, as opposed to having open discussions and dialogue, like any other course, especially for kids at 14 and 15, they were a little bit more withdrawn. But ultimately, I found good common ground to open them up to the more of the content-style stuff, and that was through anecdotes, through my own experiences. Everybody tells you you can't do this, you can't experience that, you don't know what love is, you don't do this, you can't do that, and ultimately it's frustrating. I've been in your shoes not too long ago, and I know what it's like to be slapped in the hands and say, you don't feel this way. It's impossible. You don't have the experiences. So here you are. You're about to walk out into the world, so to speak. You're about to go to college. What does something like this mean?
When I first was introduced to it, I had a variety of reactions, actually. Most of them were just sort of like, okay, so this is new, this is interesting. Eventually, as we got more into it, we were given deeper assignments, and I thought, wow, this is kind of meaningful and life-changing.
I got to learn about people, which was kind of good, like how people feel about some things. Like I liked some of the lessons we did, I guess were helpful. Like we did a lesson savoring, and we ate we were blindfolded and we ate food, and you just, I guess you just savored it, and it was fun.
The first thing I noticed as a result of this program clearly was, as bold as it sounds, an emotional catharsis of these kids. When they were finally told that it was okay to experience life, that there is no ID card that allows you to enter life, they're very receptive to it.
Well, thinking back to ninth grade, I remember just being very unsure of how I felt about anything. It didn't really matter what it was. And I came to the realization that I was feeling things that a lot of people had said people my age didn't feel or shouldn't feel or whatever. And that very much struck me.
Next year, Jane and her team will be bringing positive psychology to some schools on Tyneside as part of a pioneering resiliency program.
I think that schools should be involved with the fundamental development of kids, not just as academics, but as people. The 9th through 12th grades are essential for kids in their developmental process. It's basically the building blocks of not just education, but of life. They're learning how to be people. They're learning how to be human beings. I think it's easy to pick up a book and analyze and interpret a piece of literature. I think it's hard to develop as a human.
This responsibility to take charge has been taken to the limit in Liverpool, where everyone has the chance to stand up in front of the class and perform. At Alsop High School in Liverpool, something rather remarkable is about to take place. A select audience of parents, teachers and friends has been invited to an evening of stand-up comedy. The show is compared by professional comedian Steph Davis.
Wiggle your fingers like this, okay? And to the side, and lower them into the lap of the person next to you. That's got you all. Look at the PE teacher, she's still down there, exercising her fingers.
But the evening is really about 8 pupils that Steph has been mentoring for the last term.
Okay, start the applause for me, please. Bring on, bring on, bring on.
Everyone's all hot and sweaty, and it always reminds me hot and sweaty of my mother. My mother, it's so hot and sweaty. Do you realise it's the menopause?
Alan and his fellow comedians are undergoing an experience which Deputy Head Teacher Paul Dickinson believes will have a profound, lasting effect.
From a confidence point of view, for those particular students, it will sort of, it's something that is, you could use the phrase life-changing, which might be a bit sort of over the top, but for those students, I suspect it could be.
I walked in, I'm like, hi, Ange, and oh yeah, and I went, what'd you get me for Christmas? And she went, yeah, well, there's £2. Thanks, man. Then we're walking away with it. Bring back the change, love. Bring back the change.
The project is supported by Creative Partnerships and the Liverpool Comedy Trust, with the aim of building confidence among pupils.
Is definitely one of the hardest things to pull off. I think it takes skill, it takes timing, it takes guts, and it does to some degree take talent, and I have ultimate respect for them.
Liverpool lays claim to being the home of English comedy, so it is no surprise that a Liverpudlian school should be the centre of this education experiment.
Alsop High School is the largest school in Liverpool with just under 1,800 students. We are in a traditional working class area. The students and parents are very, very supportive, but the style of learning is they're very much doers rather than sort of taking back and listening to information.
Which is why, 8 weeks ago, comedy tutor Steph Davis was invited to become a temporary member of staff.
8 weeks ago, when we first came into this school, there was a really diverse mix of groups. Some who were really confident, some who were all over the place, and some who weren't confident at all. Okay, so you've got 3, but you added some stuff, didn't you? So you've got the exams, the PE, Mum going through the menopause. Yeah. So they might just be your 3. Yeah,
over the course of her workshops, Steph's aim was to bring out the best in everyone.
Well, what we do is to get ideas out of them. We look at stories from their own life, and we use keywords as well to stimulate stories. One word, listen to what everyone said before you, try and make a story. You ready, Danny? Go.
Weetabix is
very tasty
and
very nice.
4. I have watched my pupils definitely grow in confidence throughout the 8 weeks, and the confidence has gone from strength to strength.
And that confidence is there for everyone in the audience to see.
Right, and you say something out of order, because your nan and granddad are always dead strict, aren't they? You say something and they give you, what's your language? How can you watch your language? I mean, for hours on end afterwards, you'll be sitting there like that, won't you? Yeah, look, I'm watching, but I can't see nothing. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you very much.
For the comics and their families, the evening is a huge success, and Alison is delighted.
It was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed every second of it. I think they were absolutely brilliant. Superb.
It is not just pupils who have come under Steph's influence. She is working with selected members of staff to help them develop comedy techniques for use in their lesson.
This pyramid is terrible. Oh, proper teacher, sorry. This pyramid, hey, this pyramid is proper awful. Why was it proper awful, students? It was too many lines there. Too many lines.
But there is a serious side to the project.
What we're trying to do with this project is look at how it can be used in the lesson to look at learning. It might be used at the moment to relax students, it might be used to create a relationship with students, but this project is to look at actually how humour can be used in relation to learning in the classroom as opposed to just a tool to communicate with students.
There was some really good points where the class were laughing, and you seen as soon as they were laughing, they reacted to what you were saying.
Yeah.
The vital part is using the information as the first and foremost, and then the humour is placed around that. So it's not making a joke out of the information, it's using humour as a tool to get the information across.
My view is that a knowing happiness is key to intellectual fulfillment. But happiness is also an entitlement. It relieves the anxiety around taking risks with big ideas, which is at the root of creative learning. In this way, in the examples we have seen of schools deliberately planning for well-being, happiness can be seen as central to effective learning. This should become a responsibility for all schools and executed with all the rigour offered to planning subject knowledge. Happy with that? I am.